Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Steve Jones here with Rockin' the Valley. And as you know, I've got a bit of an affinity for the people from the 60s, the 50s, 70s, that kind of stuff. I really like that kind of music. And I am definitely blessed today to have one of the greatest artists out of the 60s, Tommy James.
Hi.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Nice to be with you.
You're not messing around or doing any hanky panky on us here, are you?
Not lately.
Not lately, okay. But I tell you, your music has really set the standard coming out of the 60s with some of the stuff that's going on with it. I really enjoy it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's a range of music because, you know, when you first started out, it's had a certain sound to it. Then you ended up with Chrystal Blue Persuasion, which is a completely different sound.
Right.
And
well, we were very lucky to be left alone, actually, by the record company, because we were allowed to then morph into whatever we could become, and we had the attention of the public for a long, long time. So and radio.
Yeah.
So we literally went through our changes right in front of people. We did it record to record, and so you know, and I still can't believe how long we've been doing this.
Yeah.
You know, and so all I can say is I thank the good Lord and the fans for the kind of longevity we've had.
Well, and that's very true. And what's interesting, and this is why I like the oldies in general. I mean, who are the bands today that are really getting the lightning bolts? Okay, yourself. Okay, you got AC/DC that's jumping across stage at 80 years old. You know, come on. You know, yeah. and the Rolling Stones. I mean, he's 110, isn't he? So, but who's getting it? That's when the music was great. It was real. I mean,
well, I'll tell you the truth. We were very, very fortunate to make it when we did, because at that moment, we came along in '66 with a record that I had actually recorded as a high school student 2 years before that, Hanky Panky. It's a true story. And but garage bands were really happening at the moment. And, you know, there were very few tricks. We didn't have the technology to do any tricks.
Right.
So what actually happened was everybody was on the same page. The trade papers, TV shows, radio, all of the bands were on the same page, and it was always an attempt to discover the next big act. You don't have any of that today.
Right. I mean, back then you had a super development. I mean, you had the British invasion, you had Motown coming up to speed, you had your classic rock and roll, you know, you had Elvis up there going, you know, doing all that kind of stuff. I mean, you had all this big stuff happening, and then, okay, we had somebody threw Woodstock in the middle of it. So, you know, it was just a whole time of major developments in music.
It was, and the fans were great too. You know, I've often talked about this. I graduated from high school in 1965, and it was the biggest graduating class across the United States ever, before or since. And all of those baby boom kids released on the street with money in their pockets in 1965. It's no wonder the record business had the biggest year of its existence. And so all of that fueled, you know, what was going on in music. And music was such a big part of everybody's life back then.
Oh, yeah, it's huge, huge. The thing I've always wondered, okay, now I play keyboards, okay? And keyboards was rough. To be a keyboardist in a band was rough because it's kind of tough to put a baby grand in your back pocket, you know.
Well, that's right. You know, the Hammond B3 came along about that time,
right?
And that was really tough. You know, the Hammond B3 had to be carted around up until Felix Cavalieri and the Rascals. The Hammond B3 was not something you played; it was something you polished.
Yeah, yeah.
In your mom's living room.
Well, this thing, the one I saw I had played was down here at place down in Hellertown. I can't think of the name of it now. But anyway, this guy had this organ. He says, "Hey, I got my organ there. You want to see it?"
Farfisa.
I don't know, but
Farfisa organ.
Parfisa, is that what they are? It had this giant Leslie on it. I mean, the damn Leslie was the size of my lazy boy chair. I said, "You move that?" He goes, "Yeah, I do." I said, "You must get a hernia like twice a week, you know?" And
well, that's when a lot of portable organs came along. A lot of instruments, you know, the Wurlitzer electric piano, the Farfisa organ, the cheesy sounding organs that were on all the records. So perfect.
Yeah. There were some really odd sounds. I know, like what was that one? It was just there on the tip of my tongue. I went, shing. I can't remember what the devil it was. Oh, House of the Rising Sun.
Oh yeah,
because they used that real.
Farfisa.
Yeah, they used real heavy on that. I can do my Yamaha will duplicate that to a point. I mean, the thing's got 1,000 voices on it. So
the British acts had the Vox organ.
Oh, really?
VOX.
What if this thing does that? So okay, so let me jump back here. We went down a rabbit hole there, which is fine. I love it.
That's a good one, though.
Yeah, I love talking music. It's now. I'm not going to tell you how old I was when you graduated, but I was here. Okay, and that was my mother's nightmare. So I will tell you that much.
My kind of musician.
Yeah, Havoc was my middle name, but anyway, so you started in high school. Yeah. With a song, and I remember seeing on your on Wiki, I looked up some things, I looked at it, and you had this one song you did. What was that, Fox or something like that?
Well, our first record, how far do you want to go back?
Well, my question really isn't about the record so much as how did you make the transition? I mean, you're a garage band, and you know you're 10th grade, 11th grade, and all of a sudden, boom, you hit it with Hanky Panky. That was your first big step out. And Hanky Panky didn't even go national, but here you are with Hanky Panky, and it's taken off. So how does that work itself in?
Sure. Well, we had Hanky Panky I recorded when I was 16.
Okay.
And I was a junior in high school, and we did it in a radio studio in my hometown of Niles, Michigan. And one of the local DJs was starting a little label called Snap Records, and asked me to be on it. So, we put out Hanky Panky, and it was a big local hit, but we had no distribution, so we didn't go much beyond Michigan. So I graduated from high school the next year in 1965 and took my band on the road. We played Chicago and, up through the Midwest. And in early spring, actually in April of 1966, I'm playing a dumpy little club in Janesville, Wisconsin, and right in the middle of my 2 weeks, the IRS shuts the guy down for not paying his taxes. So, but that's how the good Lord works, because we got sent home and feeling like real dogs. And the minute I got home, I got the telephone call that changed my life. Pittsburgh disc jockey called and told me that Hanky Panky was sitting at #1 on all the Pittsburgh radio stations, that they had picked it up and put it on the radio out of an old record bin.
Cool.
And that they had bootlegged it and sold 80,000 of them in 10 days, and we were sitting at #1. Only in America.
Yeah. Well,
only in America that could happen. So they asked me to come to Pittsburgh, and I went to Pittsburgh, and I couldn't put the original band back together. So I went alone with the record producer and did TV and radio there. And sure enough, outside the city limits, I'm nobody. As soon as I cross the city limits, I have a #1 record. I'm a rock star.
There you go.
So at any rate, I picked up a group there to be the new Shondells. And we went from there a week later to New York and sold the master. We got a yes from all the record companies, and we ended up going with Roulette Records.
Okay.
And of course, that's a whole other story.
I was reading about that. That was interesting.
Yeah, that's a whole other deal. And so we ended up going with Roulette Records, and Roulette took it to #1 in the nation, and in fact, all over the world.
Yeah.
And we had a great run at Roulette. We sold, we had 23 gold singles, 9 platinum albums, and we did about 110 million records at Roulette.
Wow.
So that was really an amazing move, going from my little hometown in Niles, Michigan to New York. It was a big cultural move, and all I can say is I'm just amazed. The longer I'm in this business, the more I realize what a 1,000,000-to-1 shot that was.
It is. I'll tell you what. Let's take a short thing here. Can we listen to Hanky Panky real quick? You know, we'll bring up Hanky Panky and we'll take a look.
Sure.
Listen to it. Let's listen to Hanky Panky. And when we come back, I got a couple of like in the right spot or in the right place stories from talking to other people. So we'll be right back here. Steve Jones and Tommy James. Here's Hanky Panky, Tommy James and the Shondells.
My baby does the hanky panky. Yeah, my baby does the hanky panky. My baby does the hanky panky. My baby does the hanky panky. Hey, my baby does the hanky panky. My baby does the hanky panky. Yeah, my baby does the hanky panky. Hey, my baby does the hanky-panky. My baby does the hanky-panky. Hey, my baby does the hanky-panky. I saw her walking on down the line. Yeah, you know I saw her for the very first time. A pretty little girl standing all alone. Baby, can I take you home? My baby does the hanky panky. Yeah, my baby does the hanky panky. 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 Let's walk it out. Let's go. I saw her walking on down the line. Yeah, you know I saw her for the very first time. A pretty little girl standing all alone. Hey, pretty baby, can I take you home? I never saw her, never saw her. You're real low inside now, wait on. Hey, my baby does the hanky panky. Yeah, my baby does the hanky panky. 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 Let's knock him dead one time. Let's go. Hey, my baby does the hanky panky. My baby does the hanky panky. My baby does the hanky panky.
Okay, we're back. I love that song. Do you know the first time I heard that? I was at a wedding.
Oh, really?
I was. I think I was the ring bearer, and for the life of me, I can't remember what relative it was. I remember seeing this babe get up on the floor. I was just coming up to the time where I was recognizing women. Okay. I think I was 42. Anyway, Anyway, no, I was about 10 or 11. I forget. But anyway, I remember her get up on the thing, and I'm hearing them play, "My baby does the hanky panky," and they're doing this, and she gets up there and she starts moving. And I'm like, I know I'm liking this. I'm not sure why yet, but there's a hormone saying that's going to be fun one day. So
Well, we weren't sure if Hanky Panky was a dance, whether it was, something dirtier than that. But none of us were sure what Hanky Panky was. I get asked that question all the time.
I don't know. Yeah, what is it? I don't know. I mean, it's
Well, the song was written by Jeff Barry and Ellie Greenwich, two of the Brill Building greats, and it was on the flip side of a record called That Boy John, on Jubilee Records by the Raindrops, which was Jeff and Ellie.
it was a B.
And it was That Boy John was a song about John Kennedy, and when he was assassinated, the record was pulled off the market, and of course the B-side went with it, and nobody ever heard Hanky Panky. So I heard a group play it, and I said, we got to do that, because I saw what it did to the crowd, and it had that effect on everybody that heard it.
It was
whether you played it live or the record. It was just one of those magics to this day. As I play Hanky Panky to the concert crowd, the screams start, and it's amazing how that record just translates and how it affects people.
It's a butt shaker. I mean, really, when it comes right down.
It's got 6 words.
Yeah.
And we sing all 6 of them.
Yeah, there you go. I'm glad you get all 6 of them in. It must have been tough. So, that's like, what's that one song from the 90s disco song? Born to Be Alive. He says it like 400 times,
Yeah.
But, it's a B-side record. I never knew it was a B-side.
Yeah.
Because the interesting, and the story I was going to bring up was that, Rock Around the Clock was a B.
Oh, is that right? Bill Haley?
And it was
I didn't know
by,
that.
I want to say Henry Ford, but that's wrong. What was the actor's name? With the last name of Ford? Glenn
Ford.
Glenn Ford. Glenn Ford. If I got my facts straight here, his kid had that plus Rocket 88 and some other songs at home, and they needed an opening song for a movie, and this song was sitting on the B side of a record. They said, "Oh, that's a good song." And they put it on. Boom. Rock Around the Clock. But it was a B-side record.
It became the theme song of a movie, Blackboard Jungle, and it was that was one of those little only in America miracles.
Exactly. And so, and there's another story. The lead singer of Saturday Night Live, she tells the story of being called as a vocalist for a wedding. She gets to this wedding, and here comes Jack Nicholson, here comes Johnny Cash, all these people. It's like, whose wedding is this? It's the producers of Saturday Night Live, and she's now singing with the Saturday Night Live band.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Great job. Right? She leaves, collects her pay, goes home. Wow, that was cool. I met all these people. Comes back. They call her back to it, and it ends up being a 30-year gig. Right spot at the right time. So, and that's so cool. And I guess the segue to this is the song Mony Mony.
Yeah, well, Mony is one of those stories that sounds like it was made up by a press agent, but it's a true story. We started, now Mony was I believe it was our 10th record.
Okay.
And so this is in 1968, and we basically I was trying to put a throwback record together, one of the old songs that put people on the dance floor, like Louie Louie or
right,
but one of the California Sun or one of those kind of songs, and sort of an old Gary U.S. Bonds thing, Mitch Ryder. By 1968, everybody was too stoned to dance anymore, So basically, we just started putting this track together, and we went in the studio and just did a 3-chord little blues kind of progression, and we just started building it, and we had no title, and finally it's the night, but we had the words all written, but we had the night before I was supposed to do the vocal, I still had no title, and we were looking for a 2-syllable girl's name, a Sloopy or Boney Maroney or something like that. And Richie Cordell, my writing partner, and I were really pulling our hair out because everything sounded so stupid. So we throw our guitars down. I'm in Midtown Manhattan then, and I walk out on the terrace. We light up a cigarette, and all of a sudden we both look at the Mutual of New York Insurance Company building. Mutual of New York. It had the dollar sign and in the middle of the O, and it gave you the time and the weather and everything. And we're looking at this thing, and we just start laughing because that's obviously the perfect title. It's like God just gave us the title to the song, M-O-N-Y, Mony. And we both knew it at the same time. I've often said I was so desperate for a title that if I'd been looking the other direction, very likely we would have called the song Hotel Taft. Or maybe
or the Chrystal building.
It didn't have that ring to it, you know what I mean?
So that's how we got the name Mony Mony.
That's a true story.
That's fun. Yeah, I was reading about that. I thought I've wondered for years what a Mony Mony is.
Yeah,
and I thought, well, maybe
now you know.
Well, I thought you were mispronunciating money.
No,
that's right. That's as part of a thing to make it fit in. And now here it is, Mutual of New York. Did they get any royalties on that? But that's wild. That is the most crazy thing. That reminds me. I'm thinking on the fly here. I have no notes on this, but that reminds me of how they got the name for the Bee Gees. Got the name for their song "Jive Talking." They kept going across this bridge, okay, and the bridge would have these woods would go click 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 click, and so that turns into their rhythm track for the song Jive. And because I guess one of them asked the other one, so what's that noise? He goes, that's your jive talking. Boom, there's the song.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So it's like it's crazy.
Well, that's how it happened. When you're a songwriter and you're making records and you have to come up with singles every 90 days. You're always on the prowl for a song title, interesting sounding words that work together, a guitar line, a chord progression, something that sticks in your head that you can start another song around.
Right.
And that happened to us many times. It happened to us with Chrystal Blue Persuasion.
We're going to talk about that one. I'd
sure.
like that song. But let's break off here. Let's hear Mony Mony. And, with Tommy James and the Shondells. Okay. And by the way, when I first saw the video on this, it's like, wow. I mean, you shot a video when nobody else was doing videos.
Well, that's true. We shot this video. To me, it made all the sense in the world to do a film of your hit record.
Yeah.
And, I couldn't understand why nobody else was doing it. And but we had a hell of a time getting it played anywhere. Because back then, American TV took the attitude that, we're not in the rock and roll business. We're much higher than that. And so the only place we could get it played was European movie theaters in between the double features. That's true. So it was me and Daffy Duck for a long time.
Well, just before we cut to it, a question. Wouldn't Bandstand take it?
Nobody would play it. Finally, we got it played in England on a show called Top of the Pops, which was their version of American Bandstand. But we couldn't get it played anywhere in the United States until they played it first. And then years later, it got sent back to MTV, and they started playing it. And then it started getting played everywhere.
Well, I'm glad we finally caught up. But anyway, let's break off here. Tommy James and the Shondells and Mony Mony.
Hey, give me love and I feel alright now.
Okay, we're back. I love that song. I really do. I was a DJ back in the '80s, and that was one of my.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
was a
didn't realize that.
Yeah, I was a DJ, and that was one of the songs that I would kick people up on the floor with. I mean, I did Hanky Panky too, but Mony Mony moved them every time.
You know, when Billy Idol redid it and had a #1 record with it back in '87, but Tiffany came out with "I Think We're Alone Now" the same week, and they went up the charts like they were holding hands, and they each went #1. That's the first time that had ever happened.
Well, I gotta tell you the next question: how you feel about remakes of your stuff when someone does a retool of it?
Well, I'm very flattered, very honored when, especially a new group does our songs. We've had over 300 cover versions of our songs, from Dolly Parton to Billy Joe Armstrong, who did I Think We're Alone Now last year and had a top 10 record with Green Day. Wow. And so, I mean, REM did an amazing job of dragging the line for the Austin Powers movie.
That's a cool song.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And so we've just been very, very lucky with that, to have so many covers and so many movies. So many of our songs are used in films. We got 63 movies.
Wow, I didn't know that. But you know, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. Then, well, you should be. But there's a very unusual version of Mony Mony out there. It's a completely different take on what you did and what Billy Idol did. And trying to remember the name. It starts with an A.
You're not talking about the dirty version, are you?
No.
No. Okay.
No, when the local bands sing it around here, we hear the dirty version.
Yeah. I don't get any writing money for that either.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, I first time I heard that, I almost fainted, because I'm here playing and I got a mixed audience, and then they start doing that modification, and it's like, oh. So anyway, I try to keep it clean. I mean, I might make crazy comments, but I do have my limits. But this other one, it's a gal singing it. It's you can find it on YouTube, but it's more about like a.
I'll look for it.
Yeah, it's more of a disco carry with it. It sounds really neat, but like your version, it's got a good beat to it. Billy Idol is like he's banging kettle drums. He's just really pounding the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And this one comes along. It's a lighter beat to it. It's faster. Okay. It feels kind of like Jefferson Starship might be singing it.
I'll look for it.
Yeah, it starts at AZU, something like that. Azula, I think it's called, something like that. I can dig for it. I can probably send you a link over to Ira, but if I find it. But it's a whole different sound to it. But I they say imitation is the best form of
Flattery.
Flattery, yeah. So,
absolutely. Well, I happen to agree, and I'm always anxious to see how other artists interpret our music. Mony Mony was done by the Boston Pops.
oh my God!
I was having dinner one night in New York, and I'm sitting here. There's music piped in over the PA system, and I'm hearing violins go plink, 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 plink. And I go, gee, I recognize that. What is that? And I said, wait a minute.
Who arranged
That's Mony. They're playing Mony Mony, the Boston Pops.
Who arranged that? Was that Williams? Did he do that?
Pardon me?
Did John Williams arrange that?
I have no idea.
I'd love to find. I mean, I
heard marching bands play it, at high school or at football games, and stuff like that. All I can say is that I'm so lucky to have songs like that have just sort of become part of the landscape.
Yeah,
and
it's
that's probably the greatest honor they can give you.
Well, you step from that kind of music and into something completely different that I guess you refer to as psychedelic rock, and that would be Chrystal Blue's Persuasion. Sure.
Well, Chrystal Blue is kind of was on the Crimson and Clover album project, and it was a very different kind of song for us and a very different feel. with the kind of, I don't know, Latin jazz almost kind of a feel to it. Crystal Blue started, I'll tell you the story basically. As I said, we're always on the make for interesting song titles. So we had just finished playing a concert at a college in Atlanta, and this nerdy kid walks up to me with the thick glasses and everything. He said, "Tommy, listen, I wrote this poem. Would you read it?" And I'm, yeah, okay. I'll read it later, okay? And he gives it to me, and I never see him again. I never see this kid again. I'm been surprised that I never saw him again. And I read it when I got back to the dressing room, and it was called Chrystal Persuasion. And it was about the book of Revelation in the Bible. And I said, well, that's interesting. Chrystal Persuasion, that's an interesting combination of words. And so I read it, and it was a beautiful poem, very spiritual, about the second coming of Jesus. And it was just an amazing little poem. So we took it back to the hotel room and started playing with it. And we wrote a little different song, made it a little more commercial. And I needed a syllable in between Chrystal and Persuasion, and picked blue, Chrystal Blue Persuasion. So it came together, you know, in about an hour, the whole song. Yeah. And Eddie, the guitar player, started playing the little flamenco guitar part. And Mike and I did the lyrics, and we took it into the studio and made the record the following week. And it took us several weeks to really put it together. And when we were done with the record, we listened to it and looked at each other, and we shook our heads. You know, this is not Chrystal Blue Persuasion anymore. This was not the song we wrote. We had completely overproduced it. We had a set of drums, a full set of drums. We had 3 electric guitars. We had too many keyboards. It was just not the song that we wrote. So we spend the next couple of weeks unproducing the record and pulling things out. And we pulled out the drums. We pulled out the guitars, the electric guitars, except for my little rhythm riff. And we had to let it breathe. And finally, at the end of all that, we felt we had the song we wrote, Chrystal Blue Persuasion. It was, we pulled about 80% of the instruments out. And so we took it back to Roulette and played it for Morris Levy, the head of the company, who loves that kind of music. He's into Latin jazz a lot, and he flipped for it. And so we had the blessing of everybody in the record company, but it was one of the hardest records I ever produced. It really was. It was. We had to completely gut the record to get it to sound right, but thankfully we did. Yeah,
it made a good hit. I mean, Crimson.
Probably my favorite too of the songs that we do in concert. And,
really?
Yeah, and of all those records back then, I have to say Chrystal Blue is probably the one that I love to play the best.
Well, it's got such a cool part to. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's listen to it real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. So
yeah,
here's Tommy James and the Shondells and Chrystal Blue Persuasion.
Look over yonder, what do you see? The sun is rising, most definitely. A new day is coming, ooh, people are changing. Ain't it beautiful? Ooh, Chrystal Blue Persuasion. to your soul. Look to your soul and open your mind. Crystal blue persuasion. It's a new vibration. Crystal blue persuasion. Crystal blue persuasion. Maybe tomorrow, when he looks down green field, in every town, all of his children, in every nation, there'll be peace and good brotherhood. Crystal blue persuasion, yeah. Crystal blue persuasion, crystal blue persuasion,
Okay, we're back. I love plum plum plum.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets you swaying.
Silly little line.
Yeah, it takes you somewhere. If you close your eyes and you got a real nice riff to it, it takes you. It persuades you, if you'll excuse me. But it's that feel. I mean, it's completely in contrast to Hanky Panky,
Right.
Mony, and even Crimson and Clover. Na 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 na. This whole dramatic thing you're doing with Crimson and Clover is still in contrast to Crystal Blue, because Crystal Blue, it lifts you into a different realm, I guess you could say.
Well, we were very careful and very conscious of not making the same record twice. The only time we ever did that was I Think We're Alone Now and Mirage. Mirage was actually the progression to I Think We're Alone Now backwards.
That's funny.
That's a true story. And you know how that happened? We had just finished doing the final mix of I Think We're Alone Now, and we had a little 7.5-inch tape that we took to Bo Gentry, one of our producers' house, and played it. And when you play the tape upside down, it plays backwards. And so we played it, and we played it again, and we got on upside down. Everybody was
Uh-oh.
Well, shall we say,
Hang on, you froze.
No pain by that. We listened to this thing and we said, that's not a bad chord progression.
Okay.
And
hang on a second. Break for a second, Tom.
Oh, we're back to now.
Yeah, we froze there for a second.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah, we broke there for a minute. You froze. So
what I was saying is that we all listened to the chord progression backwards and said, that's not bad. And so Bo and Richie went off in the corner and wrote it backwards. And then the next single, it was called Mirage.
I'll be darned.
That's true, though. That's a true story. And clumps of miracles.
I'll be darned. Pausing here for a second. Let the internet catch
Are
up.
we there?
Yeah, we're here. Just for some reason, the internet's raising all kinds of heck. It's been having a lot of problems lately. We've just give it a second. All right. Continue. Go ahead. So you said Mirage was backwards for I think we're alone now. And there was another one you said.
Mirage was one of those little miracles that totally unexpected, and was the chord progression to I Think We're Alone Now backwards.
Okay, that is totally cool. And Mirage, I mean, it's kind of like if you think about it for a second, Mirage, what a mirage is out in the desert, but it also kind of sounds like mirror. So
yeah.
Backwards, I don't know. I'm just making a.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know what I'm saying? So, right. But, so now here we are. I mean, I know I wanted to ask you. I had another note here of something. You had talked about different kinds of music and how you felt you classified yourself in with the music industry. And first off, like you say, you developed right in front of everybody from the 66 on. You were, the hanky panky type of, butt shaking type stuff with Mony, and then you worked your way through, and everyone saw what you were doing, in spite of all the other development going on. But somebody came out and they said, "Oh, bubblegum." No, and you said, "No, we're not bubblegum. We're psychedelic." Now, I was a kid in the 60s. Okay, I don't understand. My version of bubblegum had nothing to do with you at all. My version of bubblegum is the Bugaloos. You remember them?
Yeah.
Okay, 1910 Fruit Gum Company, the Archies. Okay, Josie and the Pussycat. That was bubblegum. What I would, as a commentator on music and DJ and whatever, I would consider that to be bubblegum.
Well, we went through our phase that was later called bubblegum. It wasn't called bubblegum when we were doing it. To me, when we came up, for example, with the doom, 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 doom on I Think We're Alone Now, that had never happened before. So when I Think We're Alone Now was presented to me by Bo and Richie, it was presented to me as a ballad, believe it or not. And sort of a mid-tempo ballad, but definitely slow.
Right.
And, I loved the hook. I loved the chorus. I think we're alone now. But when we took it in the studio and did a demo of it, I said, "Well, what if we did this?" And I took my guitar and I started just playing eighth notes on the bass strings on the guitar. And I said, "Let's just speed it up. Let's just see what it's like sped up." And it worked. And so that's how we did the demo. And so that's sort of how it became, and that's how bubblegum began, was doom 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 doom.
Okay.
Doom.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden these other records by Casnets and Cats and so forth sort of bastardized I Think We're Alone Now and Mony. They all sounded like cartoons of Mony and I Think We're Alone Now. So, but that was okay, because that was very flattering. And I'm a pop nut. I love pop music, what they call pop music. I'm addicted to pop. I always loved, pop records with the big hook, big vocals, big 3-chord vocal hook. I've always really appreciated that, because I know how hard they are to write. They really are.
Well, you only work with 3 chords. I mean, you don't even have you don't have that fourth chord, that fourth odd chord to play around with. So
anyway, that was really the beginning of. We went through our, I guess you call it our bubblegum phase, our pop phase, and then by the time and Mony, of course, was still bubblegum pop. It was just
really,
it was just hard rock.
Yeah,
what they called party rock. And then as we moved on to Crimson and Clover was really a drastic change for us.
Yeah.
And the thing about Crimson and Clover was, it was strategically, probably besides our first record, was probably the most important record that we made because it allowed us to start selling albums.
Oh, really?
Roulette had never really sold albums before. You know, they were kings of the singles, but nobody had ever sold consistently sold albums at Roulette like CBS did, and like Atlantic and Reprise, and so Crimson and Clover allowed us to make that jump from AM top 40 singles, pop singles, to FM progressive album rock, and allowed us to do that in one record, which I can't think of any other record we ever made that would have done that for us in one shot like that.
Wow. I did not know that, because I remember reading that the hot thing was all 45s. The record stations were pushing 45s and singles like mad. There was always, oh, it's the A side, then they would put something weird on the B side. And it's very rare that you would, both the A and B would sell, but the B side was something just packaged in there to get, move along. And then there was a point in time where it started becoming these anthology albums, the big albums. Okay. It developed itself into like what Alan Parsons started to do, Styx, and all of them in the late 70s, because there was these whole big theme things. And then poof, that disappeared when everything went over to MP3s, because now we're back to singles. We're not doing albums anymore. Okay. Well, we're trying to, but so let me just, I went that way when I wanted to go this way. So let me come back and say, let's listen to Crimson and Clover. Okay, I think that'd be a great one right now to listen to, because that's good. Sure. That's a pivotal point for you. So let's listen to Crimson and Clover.
Yep.
So here it is, Tommy James and the Shondells in Crimson and Clover. Okay, we're back. That is a neat song. I can see how that would be a change up for you, because it's so different.
Well, you know, it was the first time we wrote and produced our own product. Up until then, we'd had producers, and Crimson and Clover, we really broke free.
Yeah.
And so if that record had bombed, it might have been the end of our career right there, because this was strategically so important to us, because it was, and it ended up being the biggest record we had. We did 5.5 million singles. We did another 3 million albums right then in 1969.
That's
incredible. And then we've sold another nearly 15 million records of Crimson and Clover on various albums all over the world in 50 years. But Crimson and Clover was such a milestone for us in so many different ways. I'll tell you what happened. We went out on the road with Hubert Humphrey after Mony. Hubert Humphrey was running for president. He was the vice president running for president that year. And we went out on the road, and the groups that were hot when we left in August were, us and the Rascals and the Buckinghams and the Association and all. I'm leaving 100 people out, but I mean,
right.
It was all singles acts. When we got back 90 days later in November, it was all albums. In 90 days, the industry had gone from all singles to all albums. And, we got back, it was Crosby, Stills and Nash, Led Zeppelin, Neil Young, Joe Cocker,
Fleetwood Mac, yeah,
Blood, Sweat and Tears, all albums, and singles were just sort of the appendages of the albums. So we were very, very lucky to be working on Crimson and Clover at that exact moment.
Yeah. Again, it's that time.
Because our career could have ended right there.
Yeah.
There was a mass extinction of singles acts right at that moment.
But do you remember when CDs first come out? How they're just giving them away, trying, with the players, and they're trying to get the CDs out there. And CDs lasted maybe 15 years, if even that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they're still selling them.
Well, they are, but they don't have the impact they used to, because everything's download, and that really screwed up the whole industry overall. Okay, because people are doing, hey, here's a great song, and they mail it to somebody. So
well, the delivery system has changed so drastically now that the industry doesn't even look the same as it did. The one thing that has survived and really hasn't changed is concerts, where the live performance, it's still that magic between the performer and the audience. That has never changed, thankfully. And But I'll tell you, you know, we release product. We have our own label now, and we release product when we want to. Our last studio album we released last year, called Alive, and the album went top 20 for us, adult contemporary, and both singles from the album went top 20 for us on the adult contemporary charts. And and then of course, I Think We're Alone Now was done by Billie Joe Armstrong from Green Day. So it was an amazing year last year. And, you know, all I can say is I can't believe we're still doing this.
Well, a lot of people reinvented themselves last year. They went to the studios and they did a lot of work on themselves to try to figure out what to do. I'll be honest with you, Tom. If I was going to stop, I was going to close. We were all in venues. I do this in a venue somewhere, and we would do our live broadcast up to Facebook. And when COVID hit, we lost an engagement. You know, at the place we were playing at, I had nothing, and COVID developed the technology and the methods and the procedures that I'm doing to interview you and hundreds of other people. And this
Isn't that amazing?
Alive. Yeah, I mean, we had to reinvent ourselves from the ground up.
I totally get that. We were off for a year and a half. We didn't. We played. Our last date was February 28th, I think it was, in Florida of 2020. And we're just now doing our 7th date. We came about a month and a half, about 2 months ago, we started performing again after being off. And it's tough because it's like being an athlete. Yeah. You know, taking off a year and a half, and then you know, trying to get your muscles back. It was really, really funny. I was forgetting the words to Hanky Panky. That's bad. That's bad.
That is bad. Well, it's 6 words. You forget them.
There's only 6.
Bye, baby.
Yeah, I keep forgetting.
Hang on, guys. I'll get in a minute. Does.
Is it my baby? I know it. I know it. I know it.
It's almost as bad as Kirk going space. Yeah. I know it's something, but anyway,
right.
You were just recently here locally to me, and unfortunately, I had an engagement that.
Where are you exactly?
You were at the you were up in Jim Thorpe, right? At the.
Oh yes.
Okay, I am
at the what do they call it?
I'll think of it.
Up on the mountaintop, the peak.
Yeah, Penn's Peak.
The peak.
Yeah, I wanted to be there for that. And I had talked to Jeff about it. He had told me they'd be up there for that, and I couldn't. Or somebody I was talking to.
Oh, we'll be there again. You got to come.
I want to. I am 10 miles from there. I am down just above Allentown. I mean, my home. I live just above Allentown. Last night, and we just started playing at a place down in Allentown called the Shanty. It was my first opening night in about 3 years. Okay, I have no fingernails left. You know, and we did a whole new format, whole new setup. We had a bunch of local artists in there. Good place. I gotta tell you, I don't know if you like seafood or not, but they got scallops wrapped in bacon that are a sin. Oh my God, they're so good. But anyway, we opened last night, and it was the first time for a first setup to the crew. It's all new place.
What do you do? What do you do there? I mean, do you perform?
Yeah, we perform. We have I brought 3 different musicians in, okay, and each one gets like 20 minutes, and then it's kind of like the Tonight Show.
Ah.
Okay, I like that. And last night, one of my coworkers, okay, and they're from another podcast type thing. They're called the Dynamic Divas. They ran the show last night, and I directed. Now, I will eventually interview it there myself, or one of my other guys will interview. It's a conglomeration of about 20 people who all volunteer to go together. The guy gives you the place. I put it up there. We do it because we love music. Money is not even part of the thing. I mean, I don't know the equipment. I mean, it's like I'm afraid to add it up. But I've got all the computers and all the other junk. But we go down there, and the setup was pretty cool. We had a camera going back and forth. I think we screwed the sound up because it just we had an echo we couldn't get rid of. But I piped the visual with one camera through the one computer, and I fired it up onto a movie screen. so the people in the back of the place could see. It was kind of like a jumbotron. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So they had this big view up here of the thing. Then they're performing here. The one guy, Eric Mintel, you might know the name. Okay. Unbelievable piano player. He played the Charlie Brown theme. You know, Linus and Lucy. Oh, it was great. So, and then we had Acoustic Blues Project, which is my co-host, Earl Andrews. It's his little group they do, and they do a lot of old stuff from the 30s and 40s and that kind of thing. And they play for a couple of them. My one friend who just dialed in, but Frank Porter was on, and he does some of his music. He is phenomenal with the guitar. You'd love to work with this guy. I'm telling you. Frank he did this piece called Fly, and I've never seen a man's hands fly over a guitar like this. And he finally told me, he says he detunes by half a tone because his fingers got the arthritis and he can't grab it no more. But yeah, that's what we do. And now next week we'll have 3 new people come on. And I actually have a cook coming on next week.
So you're saying he's in the key of E flat? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, he says he likes to play in Italian. I said, what do you mean Italian? He goes, hey. But I'll tell you what, you get in the area, you're welcome to come down and jump on. I mean,
all right.
Yeah.
Fun.
I'll tell you what, you walk in the door, you're going to see people falling over. Not kidding me. And I won't tell them who you are. You come in, we'll do Mony like right there. And they hear their voice
you sound just like the record, man.
Yeah. Who is that guy? That's John Wayne. Okay. So where do you see yourself going here? I mean, you don't stop. That's first off. I know that's what you're going to do. You're not going to stop. But
I've got my show on Sirius XM.
Yeah, I want to know
Sunday.
I want to know about that because I'll tell you what. If you don't mind, I'd like to tap in on that and bring it in somehow or refer people to it.
Sure,
I'd love to. I mean,
it's called Getting Together, and it's on every Sunday from 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm having a ball doing the show. We talk about music, the music business of the 60s, talk a lot about the individuals, not just the music and the producers and how it's made. And I get a real kick out of doing the show because so many of the people we talk about are friends of mine.
Cool.
And so it's fun every Sunday, 5 to 8.
Well,
and then we, our book, Me, the Mob, and the Music, is being turned into a movie.
Oh my God! I'm going to start as a hot dog salesman.
And we had such a nice run with the book, but it's the book essentially is an autobiography with about 3/4 of it about our crazy relationship with Roulette Records, because Roulette Records, in addition to being a functioning indie label, was also a front for the Genovese crime family in New York. No kidding. And so our life was very interesting.
I would imagine.
And, while we're Hanky Panky and Mony, and there's this very dark and sinister story going on behind us that we couldn't say a word about. We couldn't talk about it. So finally, I got it all off my chest with this book. And now Barbara DeFina, our producer, is going to turn it into a movie. And she produced Goodfellas and Casino and Hugo a few years ago with Martin Scorsese, and going all the way back to the 80s. She's a great producer. And Kathleen Marshall is going to direct. And Matthew Stone did the screenplay, and it's beautiful.
Wow.
So Hollywood is up and running again. They were closed for 1.5 years too. So Hollywood is up and running again, and we're going to be casting soon. And they're looking to hire right now the technicians working on, the creative team to work on the show. And so Me, the Mob, and the Music is going to be, next couple of years are going to be really interesting watching it all come together. And, we have a new album out this month called Rock Party. And it was all of, it's an album that actually we put together 20 years ago. And We licensed it to a label in Canada, and when the license was up, it came back to us, and we decided to release it in the United States and all over the world on our label. And it's called Rock Party. It's in the stores now as of November 5th. And it's all over the internet, digitally. It's, iTunes and Spotify and all the rest of the platforms. So there's a lot going on right now. And of course, we're doing our concerts again. So if you'd like to come to our website, it's just TommyJames.com, and see where we're playing. We may be in your town.
That's cool. Well, I tell you what, we're gonna.
Thanks for letting me get all that in.
Yeah, that was good. I was counting the words, and believe it or not,
I know
you're still 1,000 words under your daily limit. You're good. I was told that. They said, Steve, don't you have a daily limit on how many words you can say? I said, yeah, but I ignore it. So, but I lost my train of thought, which is normal. My train of steam. But I wanted to ask you your website. We'll figure out how to get to our serious thing, but I'll put that out there as well. And I got to tell you, this has been a blast. I've really enjoyed this. I love
talking with you. You asked all the right questions, and it's fun talking to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's one last question, and it's a little on the cheesy side, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I consider you, and I've met some other people, Ron Coleman, and I've met Chubby Checker, Bill Haley Jr., son of Bill Haley. I met them, and I asked the same question, and so I'll ask you the same thing. How do you feel being considered one of the pioneers of rock and roll?
Well, believe me, there were a lot of people before me that I was imitating, and I'm sort of in that third generation of rock and rollers. I got a tremendous education as a fan during the 1950s and the early 60s, and all I can say is what I said at the beginning of this broadcast. I thank the good Lord and the fans for the kind of longevity we've had, and being able to do this, because it's honestly, God gave me the desire of my heart. It's all I ever wanted to do, and I hope we can keep doing it together for a few more years.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, your music, and I didn't mean to embarrass you or anything like that. I mean, well, let me follow up with a second question on that. Who do you feel, and if I'm right, it's many. Okay, but who would you say was your biggest influence coming out into where you are? Who was your biggest influence?
Well, my biggest influence was the first generation rock and rollers. I put Gene Vincent, Cochran, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, brothers, all those people. I kind of lump them all together because I was buying records back then, and I was really drinking in all that they did. And I can't say one individual. It was all that first generation in the late 1950s, from about 56 to about probably 61, 62.
Okay.
And I was very affected by Elvis Presley. As a matter of fact, I played a ukulele from the time I was 4 years old to the time I was 9, and I sang pop songs on the radio. But when I saw Elvis on Ed Sullivan the first time in 1956, I was 9 years old, and the ukulele went out the window, and that's when I got my first guitar when I was 9. So I'd have to probably say Elvis more than anybody else. That's what I want to be when I grow up.
Okay, that's good. Just to share a little bit from my standpoint with keyboards, my biggest influence. Now I've had lots of them. I like Ray Charles, Liberace, Jerry Lee Lewis. I can do a keyboard like he does if I want to.
Yeah.
Okay. Fats Domino. All right. They're all fabulous. But my guy is Chico Marx.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I love Chico Marx.
Is that right?
Yep. That hand, the figure work he does, back and forth, I think it is fabulous. And Jerry Lee.
You're right.
Jerry Lee comes in second, but Chico Marx is my guy. Just watching the way he sits there goes. I mean, his left hand is not as wild as Jerry Lee's. I mean, Jerry Lee, that left hand, like he said,
you're right.
That left hand's going to take him to hell. That's what what they told him. But the right hand that Chico does, I always enjoy just watching the fingers going up and bang like that and whatever. Yeah. I try to emulate him. It's very difficult, but
good keyboard players are really amazing. And I never had the patience to become good on the piano. I can play a few chords and write a little bit, but I never. Well, the same thing with the guitar. I'm the eternal rhythm guitar player because I never had the patience to learn how to really become good on any of those instruments. So it's a good thing I could sing a little bit.
There you go. Yeah. Well, my singing, it hasn't chased away the entire population of New York, but I'm getting there. So anyway, I went down another quick rabbit hole before we finished up here. Tommy, this has been fun. It's been a blast. Okay. And, I'll put together everything else here, but what I want to cut off here, and we're just going to say goodnight to everybody.
We'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, we're going to, and I'm looking forward to you coming back to the area, and we'll hook up. Maybe we can do lunch or something, but whatever. But ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for tuning in for Rock in the Valley tonight with Tommy James. The Shondells are around somewhere, but they're not in the house. But Tommy James tonight, fantastic interview. Okay. And here on the Rock in the Valley presents, I'm Steve Jones. You have yourselves a good night.
God bless you. Thanks.
Stop.